Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with my wrap up for June. Can't believe June just flew by so fast. I'm so excited because I'm filming this actually on the 2nd of July. So my trip to Hawaii is fastly approaching and I'm just so excited. That's all I'm thinking about. So, anyways, already starting off on a tangent, but today I'm just going to go over my stats and my top reads from June. So hopefully this video will be a little quicker depending on how I want to go about it, but let's go ahead and get started with my June wrap up. Okay guys, so now that I've just already brought up my Hawaii trip and how I'm already ready for that, let's talk about June, because June was a really good month for me. I think I did pretty well. Obviously, the previous month I read a crazy amount because of the readathons I was in part of and all of that kind of stuff. So I was pretty impressed with the amount of books that I actually read this month, because I thought I would kind of get in a downward slump and kind of get a little like reading slumpish, but I had a pretty good month. So in this video, I'm going to basically go over my top books and my stats. Now, I was previously doing a top 5, but I decided I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just going to do the ones, no matter how many I total it up to, it's my favorites, the big standouts out of all like my 5 stars, or if I happen to have 6 stars too. So I'm not going to narrow myself down anymore to like a top 5. This is my channel. I'm going to do what I want. So in this one, I think I have a top 6 maybe to go over of ones that stood out to me. But yeah, so if you are new to my channel, thank you for watching. Hope you like my content. But I'm not going to go over all the books that I read this month because I actually do weekly wrap-ups. I started doing weekly wrap-ups this last year because I talk too much about books. And when I read as much as I do, the videos were just too long with my monthly wrap-ups. So I decided to do the weekly wrap-ups. It's something that Jen from the Book Refuge does, and it's like my favorite thing she does. I love watching her weekly wrap-ups. So that's why I kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to do weekly so that I don't like just make super long videos drawn out for my monthly wrap-ups. So all that to say, I'm just going to go over my top books of the month and the stats. If you want to see all my reviews, make sure you check out my playlist. I do have a playlist for all my weekly wrap-ups, and you can get a lot more in-depth thoughts there. But let's go ahead and get started, because I did read quite a bit, more than I was expecting myself to, for June. So in June, I read 33 books, and then I had 1 DNF. So I don't really count that as books read because I only got like 40% through it. So I basically, and I don't really like fully rate it on Goodreads. I just shelf it as like a DNF and kind of put my thoughts there. So 33 books was pretty good. Like I was pretty excited with that. And then I had 13,762 pages read. So the ratings that I had, sorry, I'm going to be looking down here because I have this all on like my computer. So just bear with me. The ratings that I had were 11 5 stars, 6 4.5 stars, 11 4 stars, 3 3.5 stars, 1 3 star, 1 2.5 star, and then I did have that 1 DNF. So a pretty great month considering I had 11 5 stars. That was fantastic. A lot of the 4.5 stars are, were really good too. So, I'm basically going to be narrowing down. I didn't have any 6 stars this month, but I will be narrowing down out of my 5 stars, which were my favorites. So before I get started on that, I will go over my formats read. So I get a lot of ALCs. I do. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I had 13 ALCs in June. I had 8 ARCs. So I had 8 e-ARCs. 9 audiobooks just for listening to my other audiobooks that I want to listen to. I read 2 paperbacks and then 2 ebooks. So you can see it was like primarily I listen to a lot of audiobooks. That's why my count is up to that level, because I do listen to audiobooks every day on my way home from work. I listen to them at work. That's part of the reason I like this job, is because I can listen to whatever I want in my cubicle, and it's pretty great. So those were all the formats. Now, the types that I read, I had 9 contemporary, 3 dark romance, 2 historical, which I really slacked on the historical this month because I read like 16 historical the previous month. So I need to get back on my historical romance and read more of this. Hopefully I'll be able to have some time in July to do that. But I had 9 mafia romances. I just had a ton of mafia. 3 paranormal, and then 1 post-apocalyptic, 1 reverse harem, which was actually the DNF. So, it doesn't really fully count, but I put it in here. And then I had 6 small town. So pretty good wide variety. Some of the dark romance, mafia mixed in with my usual contemporary. So very excited. I was all over the place with it, but I definitely need to get back to my historical. Okay. So I know the stats are kind of boring, but it's something I just keep track of for me. It's kind of cool for like end of the year and to kind of see my trends and what I'm really reading, and to kind of keep me focused. Like seeing I only read 2 historical, I need to get on that, because that's my goal, is to read more historical romance this year. So I kind of make that goal every year pretty much, because I just love historical. And, with requesting so many ARCs and ALCs, most of those are going to be contemporary or like new releases. You don't get a ton of new historical romance authors. So anyways, I need to get back to it. All right, so let's talk about my favorite books. I read some amazing books this month. Now, I'm not going to put these in any particular order. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll say which one's my favorite at the end. I'm not positive which one is going to be. When I'm just thinking about it, it's pretty hard to narrow it down. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first one I want to bring up was, oh my God, this was intense. I finally read this book, and that is Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones. This is one crazy ride. It is one of the darkest romances I've ever read. Some people might say it's not really a romance, but I loved this. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I vlogged it. So if you want to see that vlog, it's my spoiler vlog. I think I had over an hour of footage because I couldn't stop talking and checking in, and this is just blowing my mind. So if you want to check out my vlog, it'll be up here. I'll try to remember to link it down below, but it was my last 12 Recs from 12 Friends vlog. So I think I did finally create the playlist for that, because I wanted to vlog every single 12 Rec from 12 Friends in 2025. So you can check out that playlist if you're interested. But in this, we have Sam, and he's one fucked up guy. I'm just saying it. He's fucked up. He does some really shitty things in this book. He is breaking into people's homes, stalking them, breaking in, attacking the husband and wife couples, trying to take over their life, get a power trip on it. And he does horrible things while he's in that home to them. And I don't want to say it here because I really think you can see it on my vlog. I go into a lot of thoughts and discussions about this, but I think it's kind of good to go in blind, because it really shocked me when I got to those scenes of how far this man takes things. But he ends up becoming obsessed with Vesper. She has a brother that has special needs. He, is handicapped, and she really takes care of him. And he really felt like she was different. And so he started stalking her. And then the night that her boyfriend, basically proposes to her, he's kind of done with that and decides to go in and do his usual routine attacking in the home. but he ends up taking her with him because she wants to keep her fiance and her brother safe. And so she asked him to take her with him so that he wouldn't hurt them. And so he had never done that before. And now he has Vesper. And what is he going to do with her? And how is that going to go? So this is a captor-captive, extremely effed up, extremely dark. There's so many triggers. I don't want to bring them up here because it spoils a lot. Just check your triggers. If you want to know ahead of time how crazy it is, check out my vlog because it is spoilery. I say it all in there. So you can definitely check that out. But the thing that made this a top favorite for me was what a mindfuck it was. And this is really like the kind of book that I'm looking for when it comes to dark romance. A book that pushes boundaries, makes you think, it's psychological. And I don't know how Nina did it, but she made me have empathy for this guy. I don't know how she did it. She's a genius with this. And this is the only book I've ever read of hers. So I know somebody wanted me to read Debt. Sorry, I can't remember which one of you asked for that, but I will definitely be buying that book and probably blogging it in the future. Not sure when I'll get to it because of all the things I have to do, but I am definitely interested in this author. This was it was a genius dark romance. Had me on the edge of my seat. Some parts I was just like, is this really happening? No. Couldn't look away though. So I loved this. But it is very dark and I don't recommend it for everyone. So I'm just going to say that here. I am not telling you, jump in, read this. If you can't handle dark romance, you will not like this. You will not like the shit that goes down in this because there is non-con, there's dub-con. There's so much much darker shit in here. That was even some of my triggers, but like I still really enjoyed it and it hooked me. So I had to put it on this list. It really shook me. All right, so that's the first one. Okay, so the next one that I want to bring up was one that I actually forgot to bring up in my last week's wrap up. I couldn't believe it. I was like looking for it when I was posting my links because it was an arc, and I'm like, wait, where's my YouTube video? And I didn't bring it up, and it was one of my favorites of the week. So I will be bringing this book up again in the next week wrap up because I just want to make sure I can give all my thoughts on it for people that might not watch my monthly wrap ups because I really recommend this book. Anyways, all that to say, this is King of Obsession by Bianca Borell. She's one of these authors that I really discovered the last couple years. I love her dark romance. I love her mafia. And I liked her previous series. It was kind of like a secret society, rich people, fucked up shit going on, but the last book really irritated me, and so I was kind of bummed out. But this is the start of a new series, and this one blew me away. It was so awesome. I couldn't put it down. This is between Enzo and Luciana. And what I'll say about this is one of my favorite heroines I've read in a really long time. She's going to be on my favorite heroine list. She's one of the tops for me. And I think it's really hard to do that because when authors write a badass heroine, sometimes it's too much shoving it down my throat and she's so ballsy and I'm the badass and I don't take shit from nobody and punches the guy in the face, or it's just so That's not what this heroine is. She is a badass. She is a master assassin. And she is one of the best in her field. She's basically kind of like the right-hand assassin to a mafia man. She lost her parents. She was being raised by nuns. And this guy ends up coming and adopting her. And he's ahead of the mafia. And he's I believe it was over in Italy though. Actually, I think that, I'm trying to remember, but guys, I think he was stationed over in Venice, but he was the head of this mafia, but there was also this council mafia type of thing. And so he was, part of that and leading that group. Anyways, he adopts her and basically has her trained to be an assassin. And she is known as, I think, Let me look it up real quick because I didn't write my notes here. Hold on just one second. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, I brought up my review because anyways, I just want to give you more details. So anyways, she is known as the Silver Death, and she's a well-known assassin. And she doesn't know who her parents were. She wants to know about her past, but that mafia guy obviously knows stuff, but he's not really telling her. So one of these other guys that's part of that council, he's kind of like a lower member in it. He basically says he has info on her family, but she needs to go kill his like cousin or whatever because he kind of feels threatened by him and he wants to make sure his place is secure in this council, and that is Enzo. So she agrees to go kill this guy, Enzo, so that she can get information from him. Now, she's not supposed to be doing this. She's only really supposed to be doing stuff for that one main mafia guy. So she has to kind of lie about it. And she ends up going, I think he's in Reno, if I'm remembering correctly. And she goes out there to kill Enzo. But what's crazy is she like never misses, but she has like a botched attempt. She tries to shoot him through like his window, but it was bulletproof. And he knew it was her. Like, he knew the moment she came into town. He has spies and everything, and they had told him that she was there. And so he ends up running into her at the bar, and they start flirting, and it becomes like this cat and mouse game of like her being like, I'm gonna kill you, and then kind of like she's gonna make an attempt to kill him, but like she doesn't. And so it's kind of like foreplay for them. They're like really attracted to each other, and Enzo immediately knows like, this is my woman, I want her, she's mine. And so they really like just get after it, and they really start falling for each other. But you know, things are going to go kind of sideways where she's going to be forced to make a decision, and she kind of, when his eye, I don't want to give it away, betrays him. And so she kind of leaves. So she did it for reasons, but he doesn't get that, and he doesn't know that, and he was devastated because he was ready to make her his queen, and then she completely betrays him, and so now he wants revenge. And so eventually things take a turn, and when she comes back into his life, he basically captures her. So we do have like a second chance captor-captive situation going on, and she's just trying to prove her worth and prove to him that she did love him. And these two were just so, oh my God, the chemistry, it was so spicy. It was like, I loved Luciana so much because she was such a badass. Like, she could literally beat the shit out of all of his like trained men, just to prove a point. But she is also very vulnerable and has this soft side, especially for Enzo. And so it just was fantastic. I loved this book so much. I'm so impressed with what Bianca did with this book. It was amazing, and she's been added to my top heroines list. So I loved it. Okay. Let's continue on here. So the next one that I want to bring up was When Hearts Remember by Victoria Lum. You know me, I'm a stan when it comes to Victoria Lum. I'm on her ARC team. I just love her. I think her writing has gotten so much better, and she's only been writing for 2 years. And so I don't know. This one was a surprise for me though, because I don't typically like amnesia romances. I just get really irritated. The amnesia goes on too long. The person that has amnesia always gets on my nerves, and just all of that usually kind of brings down the romance for me. It just does. But I should have trusted Victoria because I loved this. This was such a swoony, angsty, just like all the feels in it. And she developed this romance really beautifully. We have Ethan and Alexis. Now, Ethan is one of the Andersons, and he is kind of seen as like really shut down and stuff when you've seen him through the series. And in the previous book, we kind of find out why, because Alexis is Charles Vaughn's sister, who's one of my favorite heroes of hers. And she actually was in a really bad accident and was in a coma for, I think, like 9 years. And then she wakes up and she doesn't remember. She only remembers like up to like her 16th birthday or something. So a big chunk of her memory is gone. And this is devastating to Ethan because they have history. So Ethan is actually her brother's best friend. And they weren't like around each other a lot or anything like that. But what ended up making them come together way back was when she actually was kind of lost, feeling kind of like didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. She felt like a lot of pressure to be like the other siblings, and she just didn't know who she was at this point. And so she had written in this kind of journal thing and put it like in this really cool library that she always went to. And like it was kind of like a letter to somebody to kind of start a pen pal type of they both will write in this journal type of thing. And basically Ethan is the one that finds it. And at first he's like, this is ridiculous. But he starts writing to this person. And lo and behold, they just really loved communicating. They deeply get to know each other. They're really spilling their like heart out to each other through this journal because it feels a little safer and all of that. But they really start to like fall for each other and want to meet each other. So then they finally meet, and he's like, oh, he finds out that it's his best friend's little sister. Now, Ethan was pretty much a player. He didn't think he could do relationships. And so his best friend was like, I don't want you anywhere near my sister. She's not going to be another one of your girls that you screw and leave behind. And so he had always promised like, oh yeah, I won't go after your sister. But now he's already in love with her before he met her. And then she's drop dead gorgeous and he can't stay away from her. So they start kind of like a secret fling. But she gets in a bad accident, almost drowns, and is in a coma. And Ethan, this is just so swoony, you guys, because Ethan never gets involved with anybody else. There's no other woman drama. There's no new relationship. He was true to her. He waited for her for years. And the heartbreaking thing is when she wakes up, she has no idea who he is. And they're trying to have her do this experimental drug program to try and get her memories. So nobody can really tell her anything or it'll affect things. And she has to do a lot of PT to recover from being in a coma for 9 years. So she's really like learning to walk again and build her muscles again. So it's just, she's very strong character from everything that she's been through. But she's drawn to, Ethan, and they start, talking and being kind of like drawn to each other. And it's just one of you guys, it's really, really good. There's obviously a suspense element when it comes to what happened to her because it wasn't just a simple accident. It was because of reasons. But I loved this book. I thought it was so well done. I think it's amazing, right? Reading books where they are writing to each other, having no idea who each other are, like spilling their deepest thoughts and feelings. And so you really feel the love that they have for each other. You really feel it. So I loved it. And so it's another amazing one. If you haven't read this series by Victoria Lem, I highly recommend it. I've had 2 6-star reads from that series. So definitely a favorite for the month. Okay. So now I have 2 that are going to be, I'm just going to bring up together here. And they're from the Immortals After Dark read along that I'm doing. If you haven't known that, or this is your first hearing it, I've been doing a read along for this whole year where we've basically been kind of reading 2 books a month. July, we are taking a break because I'm going to Hawaii and I wanted a break, and I was going to do 1 book, but the book that I had listed on my original post is actually just a bind up of all the Roth brother books. So we're basically taking a break in July, but we'll be back in August with 2 more books. But for June, both the books that we had for the read along were my top favorites. Like, they just blew me away. So the first one that I had was Dreams of a Dark Warrior, and this is Declan Chase. Now, I know this may be an unpopular opinion. I didn't hate Declan Chase, everybody. Oh, what a surprise. The evil villain guy of the book series, and he's out to kill all the immortals and wants to he's literally doing vivisections and torturing. I didn't hate him. I understood it. So this is a crazy setup, and this is like, I think, book 10 in the series, so it's pretty far in. You know, so you kind of have to get in there to catch up to this. But this is between Declan Chase and God, I just lost her name. Why can't I think of her name? It's gone, you guys. Let me get it. I'm having a complete brain fart, even though we just had Reagan. There it is. Ignore me. Okay, we just had the live show too, so I will put it up here. Make sure you check that out. Not a lot of people watch the live show, and you can kind of get more detailed thoughts. I had Jen from the Book Refuge. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining me, and Helen from What Helen Reads. Helen has been amazing. She is stuck with the entire read along so far this year, so I really appreciate her because I know it's a huge commitment, and I know a lot of people have dropped off and aren't really into it, but I'm loving it. I'm so happy I am finally reading these books. So anyways, sorry, I'm just going all over the place, but this is a romance. Obviously, this is a paranormal. This is about, it's the Immortals After Dark series. So Reagan is actually a Valkyrie. And then we have Declan Chase, who is a human, but is he? He is actually her fated mate, and he many years ago, you know, he was her mate, but he died, and he's basically been reincarnated, I think 4 or 5 times, but every time they get together, he dies in a tragic way. So this poor woman has lost her fated mate over and over again, but now he is reincarnated as Declan Chase, and he has been basically brainwashed and manipulated from a young age to hate all the immortals. And basically, he's part of this group, the Order, that has captured them all, a bunch of them. They're testing them. They're doing vivisections. They're torturing them. And they are on Torture Island, if that just gives you a clue of where they're at. And he is basically kind of in charge of it. And he has kidnapped Reagan. He's also kidnapped quite a few of our other characters. We also have Lothaire there. So there's a lot going on here because he was a berserker. His original, and he is a berserker, but he doesn't know that. So he's had all these crazy dreams from like the reincarnation and these berserker urges that I wasn't really able to understand. So he was also a drug addict when he was younger. He was hooked on drugs, trying to like bring down those urges and stop the dreams and all of this craziness. And his parents were actually murdered brutally by immortal creatures, and he was too, where he's severely scarred, barely survived. He was like fed on for a long time and tortured, and then this man that ran the Order basically saved him, and so he trained him to hate all immortals. And so this is, you know, her fated mate. And so they're on Torture Island, and she is trying to get through to him, but she also doesn't want him to fully remember everything, because when he fully remembers and they kiss and get intimate, then he'll die. So she's in a really bad situation, but also wanting to rescue her friends and get everybody out of there. So it's crazy. Now, a lot of people hate Declan Chase because of all the bad things he does, but I think you know, Kresley Cole is so amazing at taking like an impossible situation and making it where it makes sense. I mean, Declan Chase does have to do a grovel. He has a lot to atone for. Now, some people don't think he did enough of it in this book, but I honestly did. Like, once he has the wake-up call, just the thought of what he did or what they did to his mate is torture. And he does some big things in here to kind of get everybody out, you know, and make amends in his own way. And so I really loved this. I thought it was very intense. I think it's the darkest one in the series. It takes you onto a whole different kind of playing field here with the start of, with Torture Island and everything. So I loved it. I was so impressed with it, and I couldn't put it down. I loved it so much. So Anyways, check out that live show if you want more in-depth thoughts on that, because we go into it a lot more. And then the other one, of course, is Lothaire. So Lothaire, the enemy of old, a 3,000-year-old vampire with an ego that is just huge. And he has been a mastermind. You've seen him throughout every book with his plans, where he is he can see 20 steps ahead. He has that kind of like knowledge foresight, not foresight like, a different character has. Nyx, who's like my favorite character. But he does have that ability. And so he gets himself into places where he does favors for people. And for those favors, he's owed. I can ask you anything in the future. You're going to owe me. You're going to owe me this favor. And he keeps them in a book. So he's got all these powerful creatures that owe him. And he's been working for thousands of years. He's like a 3,000-year-old vampire to rule a couple kingdoms, actually. And he hates humans. He's got a lot going on. He was actually on Torture Island, and the whole time on Torture Island, he was needing to get away to get to her. So we knew I was going to be his mate, right? And who is going to be Lothaire's mate? A human. But will Lothaire accept that? No. And it's not just any human. She is literally like a hick, like country girl in the sticks, in Appalachia, and he just won't believe that this is his mate. Well, she does get possessed by this evil like goddess that is just all about death and destruction. And so he just kind of puts it together like, this is my mate. And so his goal is to find a way to basically rip her soul out so that, the goddess can take over, and then he will have his fated mate, and then she will help him get his kingdoms back. And that's not going to work so well, because that bitch ain't his mate. It is our girl Ellie, and Ellie is a feisty, amazing character, and she goes toe-to-toe with Lothaire. She knows I'm going to have to use my body here to kind of like want him to keep me around, make him want me. The goddess doesn't want anything to do with sex, and so she's like, yeah, just use the girl's body, like just have sex with her, I don't care. And so it's just crazy, you guys. I could talk about Lothaire for really long times, but I don't want to make this video super long. So watch that live show, because we go really deep into Lothaire. But this was an amazing book. I really loved it, seeing Lothaire come to his knees and have to acknowledge that his mate was a human. And what is he going to do with that? How are we going to make this work with this evil goddess possessing her and all of this other stuff? And he's made quite a few vows to the Leair to do certain things, and you can't go against vows to the Leair. So it's a lot. So I loved this book. I think it was the spiciest book in the series, and there's a certain blowjob scene that is freaking crazy. So that's all I'll say. So anyways, those two had to go on the top of my list because I loved them so much. They were so good. Okay, so I think I only have one more left now. I was like, okay, one more. And it was one of my most recent reads, and I loved it so much. And that was Protected by Claire Kent. I was lucky enough to get an ARC for this, and so I was so excited, because if you follow my channel, you've seen me just love the Kindled series. Last Light was one of, I think, the first book that I read by Claire Kent. It might have been Hold, but Last Light was a standalone. It started this whole Kindled universe, and it is a post-apocalyptic type of romance series. There was, I believe, an asteroid or whatever, meteor, whatever, asteroid hit in the UK. And so, that basically brought down the world. And, Last Light, I think, is 4 years after Impact. And this one, Protected, is actually 2 years after Impact. So we're going closer to Impact. So I find that really interesting because Claire Kent also did the Kindled series After Last Light, and that's taking us further down with all these different groups and everything. And I just adore that series. I love it. So in this, she's actually kind of setting up a new series, which is going to be in the wilds. And you kind of meet some of those characters in the Kindled series, like kind of like near the end. And so this one's kind of a standalone that's going to kind of bridge the gap between that and the new series. And this one was just so good. These are short, quick, but like full stories. Like that's what I love about her, is technically it could be considered a novella, but it tells a full story. It's not like, you know, just like your typical novella. I don't know how else to describe it. It just gives you the full experience and romance, and it's intense and sweet. So in Protected, we have Dec and Lila. And Lila has been kind of struggling on her own, I think for 6 months or so, I can't remember, but her boyfriend had died, so she's on her own. And so in this world, that is really dangerous because we still, you know, it's not a good environment that we're in, obviously. And then we have fucked up people out there that will steal and kill and do all this kind of crazy stuff. And then Dec and his crew actually they're a traveling group. They go from place to place scavenging supplies. They're a pretty nice group, although they will attack people that are bad. And the leader of that group, you know, they find her because she was actually trying to like steal some of their food, and then they realize she's there and she's alone, so they offer her to come join them. And so she joins this group, and Dec is kind of like the big, huge brute, you would think, but he's a silent hero. He's a nonverbal hero. He doesn't talk. He did experience a trauma after the impact that he just stopped talking. And so, but he is kind of tasked with like protecting her, and he kind of takes it pretty seriously. He really wants to protect her, so he's always with her. He kind of teaches her how to fight, and then she actually teaches him American Sign Language as much as she knows, and then they kind of come do their own signs. And I just loved that. Like these two actually really communicated beautifully. Like I really do love a nonverbal hero. That this guy is just he's a huge burly dude, but he's like a cinnamon roll. Okay. And that's what's Claire Kent is just an expert at writing, is like that silent, gruff type of guy. But this guy will go to hell for his woman, you know? And so they started to have a really amazing really intense attraction to each other. But she doesn't want to ruin her place in the group, because if they didn't work out, like, would the leader want her to leave the group? You know, it's the first time, like, Dec is like actually makes her feel safe for the first time since Impact. And so she doesn't want to lose that. But Dec really wants her and she wants him. So they do start to kind of explore things together. And what I love about this is it's just such a sweet, easy romance set in a really difficult, complex time. And I don't know how she does that. Like, it's just very feel good, even though it's set in a post-apocalyptic setting. And I just loved this couple. I loved their connection. I loved the whole group of characters. And so, you know, there is going to be some suspense elements that come into play because, again, we are in a dangerous setting. But I love the way they communicated and worked through everything together. And so it just stole my heart. So it had to be on my top favorites. I love this series and I can't wait. Well, I love this book and I can't wait to get to the new series. So very excited for that. So those are my top books from the month. And I've already been talking for a long time when I wanted to make this video quick. So I'm not even going to bring up my worst books of the month. You know, I'm just not going to waste my time on those. But I'll probably be going over those in my end of the year when I talk about all the books that I hated. So I'll definitely be ranting about those. But if you want any more thoughts on all these books or all the other books that I read, make sure you check out that playlist where I have my weekly wrap-ups. All right. Thank you so much for watching this, you guys. As always, I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you were not subscribed already. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite book of the month was in June, or if you've read any of these. And I will see you guys on the next one.